Duck here from the Wild.Arkansas YouTube channel. Here to run part 2 of yesterday's start to the podcast. I think I left off with being released, and I'm going to go from there, I guess. So after being released from juvenile corrections after years and years of being there, I didn't even know what life was. They released me to my mom's house, but my mom's always been kind of wishy-washy on everything. And, I couldn't be out past certain times and all that stuff. Being 18 and fresh out, there was no way I was doing that. So I immediately just hit the street and just started riding BMX bikes all over town and just trying to regain what I had lost, I guess, is the way I see it. And, I started hanging out and living in, abandoned buildings and stuff again, which was chill for a punk kid. It wasn't like, oh, I'm homeless, man. No, it was like, hell yeah, this is a dope squat. I'm fixed to go dumpster a bunch of food and kick it. And I ended up starting to hang out at the Clarksburg homeless shelter. And, there were super chill people there too, close enough to my age. And, they were probably in their early 20s when I was 18, 19. We'll say 18. And, I met some really chill people. There was Tavia and Fat Tim and Fat Joe, and these are real people. Fat Tim's the gangster. Fat Joe's a fucking dick. But anyway, and I started hanging out with these people, and they all started hanging out with us at the squats and running around with us and going to the mall. And eventually, after being out, being on the street and just trying to get my life back, I ended up building a friend group, and that helped a lot. We were just mall rats, a bunch of punk mall rat kids, and we'd spend every day just riding the bus to the mall, or riding our bikes to the mall, or finding a ride to the mall, that was it. That was all there was to do, is just go be a fucking mall rat. It was fun. We could chase chicks and hang out and be shitheads and not really get in a whole lot of trouble. But we'd do some dumb shit. We all wore trench coats to the mall after we watched Boondock Saints, and we all wore we could have went to jail. We all wore trench coats to the mall, and they were like, "You won't fucking do it." I was like, "You bet your ass I'll do it." So I climbed up on top of a kiosk, and now you will receive us, and did the whole speech right there. I mean, it was like Christmas time. There was hundreds of people. You want to talk about a mall going from to, I mean, it went from a full roar to dead silent in that mall. And after I did that, I jumped down and we kind of looked at each other like, we better fucking roll. So, we all ran outside and jumped on our bikes and hauled ass out of there. And we just went, nothing ever come of it, but, something could have come of that real easy, especially in Bridgeport. And, we'd go to, now our friend, I'll give you an idea, now the friend group is essentially just, me, Seth, Bruce, Zach, Jimmy, fuck Jimmy, Fat Tim, Little Tim, Tiny Tim. We kind of used him as a punching bag, but he was still, he was our mark. If you ever seen SLC Punk, he was our mark. He wasn't really a punk. He wasn't really a prep. He was just, he just always had really good weed and was always down to hang out and was always down for whatever. And, you know, in the end, he ended up being like, you know, one of the coolest out of all of them, regardless. But you know, by then it was all of us, and we would jump in Bruce's Riviera and fucking drive up to Flinderation Tunnel, which is like one of the most haunted tunnels in West Virginia. It's, you know, back in the 1800s, there was like a train crash in it. 200 people died in the tunnel. There was a little girl got hit by a train in that tunnel. Railroad workers got hit by trains in that tunnel. And then after it was closed down, the KKK used it for lynchings and meetings. And then after that, they put a cemetery on top of it. And there was literally a cave between the top of the tunnel and the bottom of the cemetery. And you could like walk in between like the roof of the tunnel and the bottom of the cemetery. So like there were literally like caskets coming through the dirt and the ceiling, and like it was a real thing. It's still a real thing. It's there right now. And we'd go hang out there and just get spooked. Boy, you want to talk about getting spooked. Probably one of the most haunted places I've ever been in my life. And I've been to some wild places. But like we'd go down there and I'd play music. I'd play like accordion or banjo or sing hymns or just whatever wild shit we could come up with. We'd go down there and party and hang out at like 3 a.m. And we'd bust gates and go in there and park our cars in there and everything else. I mean, it was super fun. Our car got possessed. Call me whatever the hell you want, but I got 4 or 5 witnesses that'll tell you that fucking car was possessed. We parked it in the tunnel one night and we went to drive home, and like the whole car started acting up, radio was acting funny, stuff like that. We're like, whatever. And we like driving home, and eventually I was just kind of like, damn, I'm not even holding the wheel. I pulled my feet back. I was like, shit, I'm not even touching the pedals. That car drove us down the interstate at speed, followed the lines. Nobody touched the wheel. We were all just kind of staring at the steering wheel for like probably 35, 40 minutes driving down the road. And I mean, that car drove us all the way home. Up until the point to where I was like at a stoplight and needed to make a hard right and drive to the house kind of thing. But I mean, it drove us down the interstate, down the highway, down the streets, all the way to the house, essentially, like 2 blocks from the house. It was really wild. And that car would like get dents, and the dents would be gone the next day. Like Christine status. Like, I'm not shitting you. Christine status stuff. And I've got witnesses to these things happening. You like, the car would blow up and smoke to death and not run and seize. Next day it would be perfectly fine, and we would go drive 100 mile an hour anywhere. Like, it was the wildest shit. But anyway, you know, eventually our friend group got an apartment. Well, me and Zach got an apartment. And then Seth and Bruce lived with us. And then, you know, Fat Tim lived with us eventually. And, you know, all of our little homeless friends ended up staying there here and there. And let me just say, if you don't hear me talking about girls and stuff like that a whole lot, I'm trying to keep it, you know, PG, whatever, for my wife and kids' sake, because, you know, I'm putting these videos out so they can watch them one day if I'm ever gone and be like, oh, learn some cool shit about their dad, or just hear about him, or hear me talk, or, you know. So, you know, a lot of the girlfriend stuff I'm going to keep down and just try to talk around it, because, you know, being a shithead, I've had, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of girlfriends, and we're just gonna not worry about that a whole lot. You know, I'm sure I'll get into that here and there, but I'm gonna keep it to a minimum. Anyway, we got an apartment, we're all kicking it, living there. You know, everything's great for a while, and then, you know, shit starts happening. You know, we haven't paid the rent in a few months, and and I keep convincing this landlord, like, oh, dude, just got a new job next month. You know, 9 months go by. We haven't paid rent. He's still, like, trying to figure out how to evict us. And, you know, in the meantime, I will say I have met someone at the time, and we were together like 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then I was like, oh, we should get married. Told my mom. My mom's like, don't fucking do it. I was like, nah, I fucking shouldn't have told me not to do it. I probably wouldn't have done it. But anyway, I get married to Tasha, and we're together all of like, man, I want to say like 2 months. And then, you know, we lose the apartment and all that, and now we're living in a tent, and she can't handle that, so she's off with one of her exes. So I hitchhike out of town with her sister and go to Nashville. So, you know, I skip a lot. I'm going to warn you now, you know, my timelines skip a lot. Man. Let me back up to right before the hitchhiking thing. So, recently singled, not sure what I'm doing with my life. I'm hanging out with some different kids in Bridgeport, living in their basement after the apartment fell through and Tasha left and all that. You know, now I'm living in a basement with some more punk kids, and Marissa and Tristan, and they were kind of shitheads the whole time. They're like too cool for school kind of people. Always thought they were better than all of us. And you know, good for them. They had the apartment, whatever. And, you know, we're living there for a while, and then I start hanging out with Jimmy more, which turns into me, Jimmy, and Bruce taking a trip to Pennsylvania up to Pittsburgh. All right. I'm doing my best here with timelines, but, you know, just listen to the story. So we take this trip to Pittsburgh to a crime think convergence, and which is like a bunch of homeless punk kids have now rented out a warehouse and are having a get-together. All right. So we travel up there, and we get to the warehouse, and we're all hanging out, and I mean, there's just like hundreds of punk kids in this place, like all different breeds. You know, like all the trans kids before trans was a cool thing, and you know, all the gays and all the, you know, just all the genderqueer people, and you know, that's where they went back then. Like that's where they were all hiding out. It was like crime think convergences, anarchist protests, shit like that. Now, mind you, this convergence is happening during a G20. I think it was for Obama. And, you know, we're all going up there protesting, and the fucking military's out there with like I can't remember what they're called, MRAP, or maybe not MRAPs. Shit. Anyway, it's this big thing. It's like a big speaker that comes out on top of a Humvee, and it just starts going, and it makes your insides turn upside down, and makes you vomit. It's pretty cool. But, you know, we're all battling with that. I mean, we got people throwing Molotovs at them, and like bleach bombs and all kinds of wild shit. And not me. I didn't do nothing. But everybody else was doing it. And, you know, we're just having a blast, fucking with the government, going back to this warehouse, hanging out. You know, the crazy shit that was going on in that building, man. The main room was like where everybody slept. It was like the huge bottom floor where everybody slept, and there was like a little kitchen set up down in there, and all the food was vegan. It was all vegan everything, which was fucking great. I was shitting logs. But anyway, you know, upstairs they had like all these different rooms, and each room was like a different thing. You had like basket weaving or gardening or survival, bushcraft, herbalists, fucking, I mean, just, you know what I'm saying, like, they just had all these different rooms of little things that the folk punk kids wanted to teach and learn, but then there was, like, the orgy room, and then there was, like, the S&M room, which, couldn't help but go check that out. Went into the S&M room, opened the door, and there's this girl, Carrot, on the board thing, and they're just like beating the shit out of her with books. I was like, yep, that's enough for E. Good on that. Shut the door, walk back out. I was like, wow. It was like a bunch of people in leather. I was like, not me. I'll go 2 doors down, but not this one. But, you know, and I mean, there's all this wild shit happening, and, you know, I'm just trying to find some friends, because me, Bruce, and Jimmy all split up, and everybody went their own ways. And, I find this dude, Foo. Now, Foo was, like, too clean to be there. We didn't really get him. He was like a mark, you know? And, anyway, he's like, I'm Foo, you know, I run the music at Skatopia. Like, bullshit. And then he starts pulling out business cards. And his business cards, anyway, look legit. And apparently he was, like, you know, the venue runner, the music venue runner, not the actual runner of the whole thing. But he was he ran the music for the venue at Skatopia in Ohio. And so I end up running around with this dude like every night we're there. Me and him are out there fucking like digging through dumpsters and bringing back food for everybody, and you know, we're just trying to provide for, you know, the randoms. And we're out there and we find a sweet chip dumpster and score a bunch of chips. I mean, like bags and bags and bags of chips, like tortilla chips and Lay's chips, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we get back there and we are like the kings of this place at this point. There's like 4 or 5 of us that have been doing dumpster missions every night, and people are just in love with us because we're bringing in all the good snacks, like non-vegan snacks. And so you know, everyone's loving us. We're all having a great time. We're getting invited to everywhere, and people pulling us this way, that way, like, come hang out with us, you know, come do this, come run to the fucking front of the protest with us. And, you know, we're doing all of this and having a blast. And, you know, the convergence starts winding down, and so we all, you know, Jimmy takes off with some randoms and hits the road and starts hitchhiking. Me and Bruce went back to West Virginia, and you know, all my shit had fallen apart at that point. Like, the friend group fell apart. I didn't feel like being there, so you know, I hit the road and went to Nashville with Tasha's sister. And you know, we're hanging out in Nashville for a few months, and it's all fun and good. And I meet some train kids, like kids that hop trains, and you know, they're introducing me. And I meet this dude, Cooper. Now, Cooper was like 6'7", played the ukulele, giant hands, hilarious to watch play a ukulele. But he had been train hopping for a while, and he's like, bro, let's fucking go. So we take off out of Nashville, just me and him, and we hitchhike out to his house, and he's there, and we're hanging out at his place, and I'm like, well, fuck, I kind of want to go back to Nashville. So I go back to Nashville, and I go back, and I'm hanging out again, because it feels comfortable. You know, I already know this town, not used to traveling yet, and I'm like, fuck, what am I doing? So I hit Cooper back. I'm like, bro, you still at your house? He's like, yeah. It's like, all right, I'm coming back, you know, we'll hitch out west. It's like, oh, hell yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to hitch out of Nashville. Man, I tried every damn exit ramp, on ramp, highway, everything. Just out there thumbing day in, day out for like days. Could not get a ride. So finally, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm gonna walk. I'll just walk to Clarksville from Nashville. It's like 70 miles. So I did. I walked like an entire day, an entire night, and most of the next day, and walked up to Cooper's house from Nashville. And I get there, and my feet are just so sore. And I pull my shoes off, and when I pull my socks off, the bottoms of my feet came off with my socks. Now, when I say that, I mean every inch of skin on the bottoms of my feet, halfway down, like the whole calloused area of your foot came off with my socks. And that was not good. I could barely walk for like 4 days after that. I had to soak my feet every day living in a... Cooper lived in a chicken coop. So we were living in his coop. And I had to soak my feet for days. And you know, we're just like getting ready to leave. And I'm realizing right now that there's this huge piece of my story I'm forgetting. Boots dog. While we had the apartment in Clarksburg, the one we weren't paying for, I found a puppy. I was in Shinston, West Virginia, walking across the bridge because Zach had a house down there. And I was walking from his house to the gas station. And it's snowing and everything. And I look behind me and there's this little fluffy black fluff ball following me. I was like, dude, you need to go home. Get out of here. Now, all these puppies did come from Kathy's house. She had a huge litter of like black lab mixes. And, but this one puppy followed me all the way to the gas station. And I'm like in the gas station buying cigarettes, and the guy's like, damn, that's a good dog you got there. And I look over at the door, and Boots dog is standing at that door, just little puppy, feet up on the door, just staring at me, watching every move I make. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I do have a good dog, huh? And I walk outside, and Boots dog follows me all the way back to the house, and I get back, I'm like, yo, Kathy, can I have this dog? She's like, yeah, take it. His name's Boots. He's got little shoes. It's like, he had a little brown on each paw. But I'm like, yeah, I'll take him. So, take that. Fast forward back to Clarksville. You know, it's just me and Boots dog. We hiked all that and all that. Now it's me, Boots, and Cooper. He didn't even have a dog yet. I don't think he ever had a dog. I don't remember Cooper having a dog, surprisingly enough. But, you know, it's just me, him, and Boots dog, and we're hitchhiking. So we hitchhike out to, where'd we go first? I think we went to Colorado first. And, no, oh my gosh. No, we went to Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We like hitchhiked up to go, we were going to go up to, oh my goodness, we were going to go up to St. Louis and hop a train out of St. Louis. But we ended up in Cape Girardeau, and we met these girls, and they had a car, and they were out busking, and I was like, you know, we convinced them, like, yo, let's go travel. And they were like, okay. And they like left their whole lives behind, and we went traveling. And we drove all the way out to Colorado, and when we got to Colorado, you know, I was wanting to travel in the car because it was comfortable to me. And Cooper was like, well, fuck, I'm going to go meet up with some hopper kids I know up in Denver, and, you know, I'll catch you later. I was like, all right, well, that's fine. So now I'm traveling with Kelly and John. And John's this fucking big old hippie caveman looking motherfucker that we found in Colorado Springs. And we needed the extra hands to gas jug and stuff. So, you know, we travel in the car. We go up to like Wyoming, Montana, Seattle, or Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, down Oregon, California. Now, funny story, this traveling bit ends in California, by the way. But funny enough story, I fell asleep in the car in Washington. You know, it was daytime. And when I woke up, I was in the car by myself. And I was like, oh shit, where the fuck is everybody? And I don't know why I started freaking out, but fuck, where is everybody? And I like turn on the headlights of the car, and I'm in the redwoods. Like, never have seen massive trees before. Or maybe it wasn't redwoods. Maybe they were just, it might have been redwoods. Big ass, old ass trees, alright? So we had to have been in Oregon then. So it wasn't Washington, it had to have been Oregon. Like I said, my memory is trash at this point in my life. But I'll do my best. So it had to have been South Oregon. Because it was right at, yeah, okay. I had a bowling ball that I wanted to take and throw into the ocean for Donnie, if you're a Big Lebowski fan. So we just had, we went to the sand dunes. We went to the Oregon sand dunes, slid down the sand dunes in the ocean, and I hucked that bowling ball into the Pacific. And, after that, we're driving, and I fell asleep in the car, wake up. And I wake up, and I turn on the headlights, and we're in the redwoods. Giant trees, moss hanging down, the roads are covered in moss. I'm like, oh my God. Did I fucking die? Did we have a car crash while I was sleeping and now I'm dead? And this is my heaven? Like, because it would be. It's pretty. Like waking up in a prehistoric time. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, where is everybody? And it's like dark, and I got a flashlight, and I'm looking around, and there's nobody. And I'm like just in these woods, and the roads are all moss. Like, you couldn't even tell you drove in on it. And they're just like, we're over here sleeping, you fucking idiot. Go back to bed. Little did I know Kelly and John were in the same tent at that point. But I was like, oh, whatever. And I was just like too tired, too freaked out, went and laid back down in the car. Come next day, we get to Arcata, California. And John and Kelly fucking ditch me at a gas station and take off together. There's a reason I'm mad that I'm not explaining, but we'll get off. You can figure it out. But they ditched me at a gas station. So now I'm in Arcata, California. Me, Boots Dog, my backpack, and a fucking accordion. Alright? And I don't know if you've ever lugged around an accordion in a case, but it's like literally a 45-pound brick that you're dragging around with you. And so, we're just trying to figure life out. We've done all this traveling in a car, up from Colorado to up and over, did the big hook, back over to California. And I'm just trying to figure it out. I don't have any food stamps. I don't have money. I don't have a way to make money because nobody gives you fucking money in California. But, so I'm just like struggling. I'm like hungry. All my money goes to Boots, making sure he's eating. And, I meet cool hippie girls and guys here and there. And, they're like, oh, let me go in here and buy you, like, stuff for peanut butter and jellies or this. Or let me go get you some hot dogs or, shit like that. And, I'm just, like, people making sure I'm fed. And, like, well, shit. I don't really know what else to do with myself right now. So I go over to Eureka and I go find a pawn shop. I'm like, man, I really need to sell this accordion. He's like, well, we don't buy accordions. He's like, can you just please buy this accordion? So he buys it for like $200, which is actually a fair price because I had sand jammed in every reed. And the only reason it would play is because I had figured out how to play it with the broken reeds and made it sound good when I played it for him. But I took that money and went back to Arcata. We're like trying to hang out on the square, but I have a dog. And in Arcata, California, if your dog sits, you get a ticket. It's called Dog Not in Motion ticket. Or if you go into the park with a dog, you get a dog in the park ticket. Or if your dog, God forbid your dog shits or pisses in town, because that's a ticket too. Even if you pick it up, it's still a ticket. You can look this up. The worst one was literally like if you're walking the square down there and your dog sits, ticket. It was like a $175 fine for your dog to sit because they were trying to get the homeless kids out of there. So they made it illegal to do anything with a dog, and we all had dogs. But anyway, I go to the music store in Arcata. I'm like, dude, I just sold my accordion and I really want to buy a banjo. He's like, well, this is the cheapest one I have. It's like $275. I was like, well, I've got 200. He's like, well, come back when you have the money. All right. So I walk outside, and as I walk outside, this dude stops me. He's like, hey, go back inside. I was like, okay. I don't know this guy. He's like, hey, just go back inside. And it was just like a random guy that was in the store while I was in the store. He's like, grab that banjo. I was like, dude, I don't have the money. He's like, you're about to. And, you know, I put my $200 on the counter, and this dude comes up. He's like, what's the difference? It was like $80 after tax. He's like, here. Puts his money down, puts 100 down, and he's like, there you go, buddy. I wish you the best of luck, you know? And because of that guy, you know, I had a music career for the past 15 years. It was that guy, that one person changed my life. He did. I mean, that moment changed my entire life. I wish I knew who he was. I wish he knew who he was. You know what I mean? But, you know, he bought me that banjo, and that changed my whole future right there. Anyway, you know, now it's just me, Boots Dog, and the banjo backpack, just traveling around, and, you know, I'm plinking away, learning here and there. We meet this cool chick, and she's like, let's hitchhike up to the beach, and we'll go hang out and camp out. We hitchhike up to the beach, and we hang out. She goes nuts in the middle of the night, and just like, I don't even know what happened. I just like woke up to her going crazy. It's like, well, fuck that. Me and Boots loaded up and just walked off and just like started heading down the beach. And yeah, we started hitchhiking north back up into Oregon, and we got up towards Washington, and we started trying to take that highway between Oregon and Washington that like runs along the border towards Walla Walla. And God, it was a nightmare. I mean, we'd get to a gas station, like we'd get, you know, a 25-50 mile ride to the next gas station, and we'd get there, and I mean, we'd be making hand over fist money just from sitting there. Me and Boots Dog just sitting out front of the store with a sign, you know, just says going anywhere, and people just keep throwing money at us. I'm like, can you just give us a ride instead? And they're like, well, no. So, I mean, we've got like $400, $500, $600 in our pocket at this point. Me and Boots. And, you know, we're just trying like hell to get out of there. We're stuck on this highway. I mean, we've been on this highway for like 2 weeks now. And finally, I started walking every day. Every day I'd walk, you know, 10, 15, 20 miles, whatever I had in me. And, you know, people would stop and give us water and hand us sandwiches or money, and nobody would give us a fucking ride. So finally, I'm wore out one night. I mean, it's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm still walking, raining, trying to get somewhere with some cover. And I end up at a gas station. I'm kind of like sleeping out on the ground in front of the gas station in the lights under the roof. And this lady wakes me up. She's like, hey, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm just trying to get anywhere but here. She's like, well, we're going up to Idaho. You're more than welcome to ride with us, and, you know, come to my mom's house, and, you know, we'll get you fed and showered. And so I was like, okay, like, hell yeah. Now, mind you, I'm still like 18 going on 19 at this point. And we get to this house, and I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in the Hoodoo Mountains in Idaho, Priest River. And they took me to their mom's house, the Larsons. And Inez lived there. And Inez was probably in her late 70s, early 80s, maybe at this time. And, you know, I get there, and she's just like this devout, hardcore Christian lady who just wants to help the world, you know. And that woman meant the world to me. She still does. God rest her soul. You know, I loved that woman. She was so sweet. And, you know, I stayed, and she's like, you know, don't go. Stay here and help me on my farm. You know, it's just me and, you know, a couple of my kids, and nobody helps me, and I just need I need a man's help around here now that my husband's gone. Now that her husband passed, and it had been a few years, and she just wanted somebody around. She just wanted company is what it was. And, you know, I'd help her load firewood into the basement and go get groceries, and I'd help her take care of the peacocks and the chickens and the dogs. And she had like some of her older male kids and their kids living around. Like Dan, him and his kids were young then. Dan, him and his wife were super cool, and I think Judy was her daughter that hated my fucking guts. She thought I was there just to like rob her mom or whatever, but I really just loved Inez. And then she had like a Mike, I think his name was, but him, his wife, and son, they were all just tweakers, and they were just fucking just shitheads. I'm just helping her out. I'm helping Inez out as much as I can. Winter's coming on anyway. It's like starting to snow in Idaho already. So I'm like, well, I'll just hang out here for a few months, and then I'll get out of here. But I'm hanging out, and Inez, I just get her to play piano for me all the time, and we hang out every morning. And my favorite thing, I can still remember her. She'd come in and she'd wake me up. Hey, you want to come have some toast? Like, absolutely, Inez. I would love to come have some toast, like anytime. That was like our thing. We just like wake up, hang out, and eat toast and talk. And or she'd come and bring me toast. I mean, I don't know what it is with grandmas in my life, but they all bring me toast. Like my grandma, maternal grandmother, toast. It was all buttered toast. And me and Inez, all buttered toast. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm with it. Anyway, we just spent every day together, and I loved that woman. She was so sweet. And all she wanted was a friend, is all it was. And I was glad to be that guy. And Carla lived there, which was one of her daughters. And me and Carla were friends. She was twice my age, but, we were homies. Like, we'd hang out and smoke weed and kick it. And, we always split cigarettes and just chilled. And, she was more on my hippie level, you know what I mean? And Inez just wanted me to go to church with her every Saturday and hang out and eat food. Just be a friend to her. And, I did the best I could for as long as I could. And then come December, I was like, I think I'm ready to go home. And she actually bought me a plane ticket all the way home to West Virginia. And, I flew, that was the first time I ever flew. I went from Washington to Colorado to somewhere to West Virginia. And, now I'm back home. My dad's out of jail at this point, so now we're hanging out after all this time, and I'm not really trying to stay with him, but I am staying with him, am and am not, just hanging out as much as we can, and doing stuff we missed out on. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I know we did it. And that's when I started working towards getting my van. I was like, hitchhiking's the shit. I need a van, something terrible. So I start spanging and flying signs at Walmart and stuff like that in Bridgeport. And I made, I found a van in Morgantown, and I made the money pretty quick, $775. And I went and bought my 79 Chevy van and, got it towed back to the house. Got it fixed up, got it running, painted it red. I was like, all right, summertime. And I hit the road, and I drive back down to Nashville, and I discover all these dirty kids hanging out. I'm like, yo, what's up? And they're like, oh, nothing. Getting ready to head back down to the hill. I said, well, what the fuck's the hill? They're like, Hippie Hill? Never heard of Hippie Hill in Christiana? It's like, no. I'm like, well, come on. So I loaded all these kids up in my van, and I drive them back down to Hippie Hill. And this place is like nothing I've ever seen before. I mean, it's just a bunch of campers in the woods, but it's all traveling kids. Like, everybody there is traveling kids, and I'm like in heaven. It's all traveling girls, all traveling guys, a couple of like long-term residents like Jingles and Jaime Hill, if you know what I mean, and and Hippie and Mama, and Rose and all them. And so I start living up there. I never even left at that time. And I'm like hanging out up there and doing all the fly missions and learning how to play banjo from people up there. And you know, finally we're like, all right, let's fucking hit the road. Like, let's go. After a few months of being there, you know, we got tired of it. We're like, let's go. So a few of us packed up in the van and we started to leave. And I mean, we didn't even make it 50 miles past Nashville before that motor started bang, 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 bang. Fuck. So I'm like, shit. So all these traveling kids are like, you're on your own. Fuck. So now I'm driving a blowing up van back towards West Virginia to get to my dad's house to try to fix it. And I mean, I'm driving down the road and it's knocking like a fucking, like it's got hammers in it. And I'm like, shit. So I just cranked the radio and just hammered down. And I think we made it another 175 miles towards West Virginia before that motor completely exploded. I'm talking yellow smoke out the exhaust pipes, screaming, squealing, screeching, and then it finally just clink. Like, all right, well, that's that. And so I didn't know what to do. I'm like a couple hundred miles from home, probably a few hundred miles from home. I was close to Kentucky, I think, when it finally went. And I didn't know what to do, so I called Inez. And, you know, Inez, they had some money, not a lot of money, but they had more money than anyone I knew. So I called Inez, and I was like, Inez, I really just want to get my van home. You know, like, I don't know anybody else to help me. She was, of course I'll help you. Her kids hated the fact that she helped me, because yes, it did cost her $800, you know, and yeah, I feel bad that I asked for it, but, you know, when people are willing to help you, you might as well take the help that you can get, because what else are you gonna do? So, you know, she gave me the money to get a U-Haul and a trailer and take it all the way back to West Virginia, which is exactly what I did. So I loaded up and, you know, we gas jug it back to West Virginia in a few days and get it dropped off. You know, all that's good. Got the van back at Dad's house. Gonna find a new motor for it and all that, but I'm like, fuck. I've never changed a motor. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to do. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out for a minute. So I'm at Bob Crump's apartment. Not to use last names, but I'm at my buddy Bob's apartment. And, you know, I meet a girl there. And that ends up becoming like a big deal to me, you know. And so me and her hanging out, and me and her are living at Dad's house, living at her mom's house, living in a car and this and that. And I'm like, fuck this, let's go hitchhiking. So me and her take off and we hitchhike we go down to like Hippie Hill and up and around here and there, you know, that area, like the Mid-South. So we go down and hang out at Hippie Hill for a few months, and a bunch of shit happens that was like all bad. And we get the fuck out of there, we're hitchhiking again, and we go back to West Virginia, which we shouldn't have done. And, you know, life just kind of falls apart between us. And, you know, she goes her own way, I go my own way, and I buy a motor for the van, put a new motor in the van, get it running again. Now, funny story on that, when I took the motor out of the van, I left it on the ground in front of the car, in front of it, and it was the blown up motor, and literally someone came in the middle of the night and stole that whole engine, pulled up, loaded it up, and left without us noticing, in the middle of town. Ugh, that tea tastes like coffee. But yeah, somebody stole that old engine after we put the new one in, which was hilarious. And, you know, I load up and I hit the road again and I drive back to Hippie Hill, and that's where I met Keystone for the first time. It was Keystone had a girlfriend then, and they were on the fence, but like we all took off in the van together, and she ended up going back to Tennessee at some point. I can't really remember a whole lot of that, but there's huge blanks in my memory. I don't know. But now it's just me and Keystone, and like that's me and dude. Like, if he sees this, man, fucking me and him forever. Like, fucking forever. My homeboy. And he lives in Texas now. I wish he'd come hang out. He's been talking about moving up here. I wish he fucking would. Be lit. Anyway, back then, me and Keystone are just like drinking all the time, and he's always drinking, and I'm sometimes drinking because I'm driving most of the time. And you know, we travel out to like Colorado, and then we go up and hang out in Montana for a while, which that was cool. And you know, we did the same route. We did that big question mark up going over Utah, because Utah kind of sucked at that time, which I found out Utah was actually pretty good after a while. You know, we went up Idaho, went and visited Inez, and then we went to Washington, Oregon, California, and then we went all the way down Southern California. Well, we were going through like we took the 101 and the 1 like back and forth. We'd switch highways back and forth, and traveling down through like Garberville and Mix something, can't remember. You know, we were going down the coast and going through the redwoods and just starting to see what we could see, trying to find a job trimming pot. And we end up in like shoot, I can't think of any names right now. Bakersfield. We ended up in Bakersfield, and somebody told us about a cool hot spring. We went and checked that out, which is in Lake Isabella, California. And then we went through like New Mexico and come back around, and you know, I'm saying, you know, we're just like continuously traveling, but we're stopping like a week here, a week there, 2 weeks here, 1 week there, 2 days here, 2 days there, you know, and there's like, you know, 100 different people in and out of my van in the meantime. Like, it's just like constant flow of person in and out of the van. And, you know, we get back around and we go back to Colorado, and we start coming back through Kansas, and Keystone gets arrested on some bullshit warrant. I wonder if it was Texas or Kansas that time. It was Texas the first time. We're coming through Texas, and he gets picked up on some bullshit warrant, and he's gonna be there for like at least a month. Like, well, I'm not fucking hanging out in Texas for a month. So I dip, and I go back to West Virginia and hang out for a minute with my dad, and you know, in that time, you know, it's I think it was like me, my dad, and my sister were all hanging out at his house, or staying at his house, or something like that. And we all got into a fight one night, and all I remember is Liz slapped Dad, and then he pushed Liz, and I ran up and pushed him into the TV and called him the FAG word, and that was a big regret. You know, I called him the FA word and shoved him into the TV, and he was like, dude, just get out of here, I'm calling the fucking cops. Like, whatever. So I load up and I go to my buddy Randall's house. I get a call the next day, or Randall gets a call, and he comes and wakes me up. He's like, hey dude, you need to go home. I was like, okay. And I get back to Dad's house. I mean, every cop for 50 miles is there. And he was dead. I guess that night he took a Xanax before bed and laid down, and his sleep apnea slowed his heart, and then the Xanax slowed his heart even more, and then it just stopped. So there he was, laying on his bed, surrounded by cops. They're all just looking at him because they could never catch him, and now this is the only way they ever could. So it's like a fucking circus show. It's like every single cop that ever wanted to catch him is there looking at him, and fucking I'm fighting my way through cops in the house to get to him, and it's a whole big thing. But you know, that's something I gotta live with right there. And I couldn't handle all that, so I just went back on the road immediately. Just got the fuck out of there. Let Liz take the house over, and I took Dad's car and just took the car in the van and all my friends, and we loaded up 2 cars deep and headed down to Florida. His car didn't even make it to Florida. We got to like the border of Florida and the motor exploded, so it ran out of gas and we were chain towing it, and the guy behind me didn't take it out of gear, so I was towing it in gear. So it ate the fucking motor up, and so we scrapped it. Rest in peace, putt car. But you know, now we're living in Florida, or now I'm just in Florida. We went to Ocala. That was a shit show. And Ocala is a rainbow gathering, which is just kind of like a hippie festival where all the traveling kids come and meet and hang out in the woods for a week. They do it every year. And so anyway, we're hanging out and just doing the Ocala thing, just kind of everybody's sitting around and eating food and getting stoned and getting drunk and chilling. Then we leave there and we go to Acola, or vice versa. One happens after the other. I couldn't remember which one. And that was fun, and we hang out and meet some cool people and meet some cool chicks, and you know, do the whole traveling guy thing and single traveling guy thing. And you know, I'm just trying to deal with life as it comes. And we get out of there, and we just went straight from Florida to Colorado and started hanging out in Manitou, which Manitou was cool because it had like a little collection of like dirty kid traveling kids that hang out there at the stage, and we all just kind of, and I fell in love with that because it was just all good people, all good vibes, you know. And you know, I spent a lot of time in Colorado. Colorado was kind of like my hub. It is like the center of the country almost, so it's like the coolest part of the center of the country, if you would. And spending a lot of time in Manitou. It's just all fun, you know, just fun the whole time. And we just spend every day like climbing mountains or driving out into bigger mountains or going up Old Stage Road and watching over the city and camping out up there like 10,000 feet. God, I wish it wasn't such a blur, you know, all those memories. So I did it so many times in a row, like leave, go back to Colorado, leave, go back to Colorado, leave, go back to Colorado. I did it so many times in a row that it's all just one big story. You know, I can't remember which time was what. But back then it was, you know, there was like 10 of us and we'd all just stayed at the stage, or you know, it was all kids from that area that didn't have anywhere to go or didn't want to be at home, and we'd all just hang out at the stage and get drunk or high and just hang out. Those were really the good times. I mean, they really were. But you know, I just went from Colorado, and then we'd go across Nevada to California, and then we realized we couldn't find weed in California. Fucking facts. Don't tell me any different. Been there, traveled there 1,000 times, could never find pot in California. Had to drive back to Colorado all the time just to get pot to go back to California. It was a nightmare. Anyway, you know, we just bounced back and forth between Colorado, California, Montana, Redwoods. Then we'd drive back to like Missouri and stuff like that. And then there was a time where I had parked the van and was hitchhiking a little bit. kind of moving around without the vehicle for a minute. You know, like I was hopping trains out of Missouri to Colorado to Montana, and then we'd ride the High Line across from Montana back towards South Dakota, back down towards Chicago, and we'd go back down south and hit the low line and fucking ride across the Midwest, or ride across the South in the winter so it wasn't so goddamn cold on the train. And, you know, I did that for like a whole summer, whole year essentially. Like a whole year of just straight train rides, nothing else. Then I went back to Dad's house and picked my van. No, I parked my van and Dad was dead, so I parked at Mom's house in Clarksburg, down back, I remember now. I parked it at Mom's house while I was traveling, and then I went back and picked it up. Mom was like, "You gotta get this van the fuck out of here." I was like, okay. So I went back and picked up the van and just headed back out on the road immediately. And, you know, obviously went straight back towards Colorado because that was my comfort. But I hit Missouri, and I ended up breaking down in Missouri and met a really cool couple, Chris and Melissa, which they ended up becoming like my, you know, these timelines are fucked. You know, I'm probably mixed meshing years here. But I met Chris and Melissa, and they became like a second family. And, you know, I spent a lot of time there. You know, I'd go there, stay for 2 weeks, head out to Colorado, travel around, get bored, head back towards West Virginia to visit family, and just stop in Missouri every time. If I was going through Missouri, we were going to Chris and Melissa's every time, no matter what. Like, they were a mandatory list, like a mandatory spot on my map that I had to visit as much as possible because I loved them. And they still love me, and I still love them very much. Haven't seen them in, God, probably a decade. Wish it wouldn't have been so long, but that's how it is. Everybody's got their own life. But, you know, they were really good to us. You know, I'd bring traveling kids there all the time, or different girls, and they were always just so accepting and so down just to be good to me. And that was the best. I mean, that was the best parts of the road were like Inez and Chris and Melissa and Jake and Dylan and Johnny and Maddie and man, just Sammy, just everybody back then. Keystone, Cooper, Jingles and Jangles, two different people. Man, just all these different people, you know, and they were all great, and they were all good to me. You know, some of them I fucked over, some of them I didn't. You know, it is what it is. And, but you know, that was the whole best part of traveling, was just the people. You know, I love people. Hate being in crowds, but I love being around people. Explain that to me. But yeah, you know, I spend a lot of time just moving around, just back and forth, back and forth. I mean, I've taken my van back and forth across the country at least 50 times. Like all the way back and forth, up and down, left and right. I've been to 48 states in my van. And I've been to 48 states hitchhiking, been to 48, well, I didn't go to 48 on trains, but I definitely hitchhiked all 48 and drove to all 48. Let's see. Missouri, Colorado. And then we went from, I know there was a time we went Colorado up around the, you know, did the question mark, and went down back to that hot spring in California, and it's in Lake Isabella. You gotta like hike 5 miles down this trail to get to it, and then you finally get down there, and there's like these 3 tubs by the river. It's so cool. And of course we're all down there butt naked, and the cops walk all the way down there, and they're like, "You come with us." It's like, "Me? Like, you on the van?" It's like, "Yeah." They're like, "Come with us." I get out balls naked, and they're like, "Put your fuck clothes on." And I put my underwear on, and they made me walk 5 miles all the way back to the van. "Is this your van?" "Yeah, that's my van." "We want to search it." No. Well, we'll get a canine out here, we'll search it anyway. Just fucking search it. So they emptied my van, didn't find shit, wrote me a ticket for being naked in public. And I loaded everything back in my van and walked back down to the hot spring, got naked and jumped back in. But, there was that. And then after that, we went across to Nevada and went to Vegas. And Vegas was pretty cool. Wasn't shit to do, and it was hot. Everything's 7 miles away, no matter where you are. And, we spent time hanging out in Vegas, met cool folks. And then we went from Vegas back to Colorado, dropped everybody off that we had with us at that point, re-upped a whole new crew in the van, and and then we went up into the mountains. Now I'm gonna leave off on the mountains part right now, because that's, and on the next part I'll tell you about going up into the mountains and robbing summer homes. Not necessarily robbing, allegedly robbing, because we never did anything illegal. That'd be fucked up. But we used to procure items from summer homes. Let me just say, everything told in this story is fake, false, lied about. None of it's true. None of it's real. Don't believe anything you hear. I'm making it all up as I go. Anyway. So me and a bunch of kids from Manitou hopped in the van and drove down towards Pueblo, and went down towards Durango. Went to the sand dunes in Colorado, and then went over to Durango and started driving up the mountain trails to go from Durango to Steamboat, which is the most mountainous route you can take through Colorado. And I'm talking, there's not many roads. I mean, it's mostly just trails and Jeep trails and off-road shit. It was nuts. So we start coming up through Durango, and we're crossing mountains, probably 9,000, 10,000 foot mountains, and we're going through all these little abandoned mining towns. There'll be just the outside, the structure of a Victorian house. All the wood's there, everything's still there. The house is empty, windows, doors are gone. But all the outside is just pristine, but all the paint's been wore off of it. So everything's just wood. Everything just looks like it's been stained. So there's all these little houses in these ghost towns where, just there's no paint, they're just wood. And it's just the shell of a house, or the shell of a mining building, or the shell of a sorting building, or whatever it was up there, running along these creeks and runoffs down up through the mountains. And we're camping out in these places, and we're living in these old abandoned houses and kicking it in these old stores, and just metal detecting and searching all these old mine shafts for stuff, which I found a cool hat one time. But so we're going around and hiking through these towns, hiking through the mountains. The water we have, we're getting out of creeks and streams that are all, snow runoff, and we didn't bring shit with us up into these mountains. And it started to settle in on us shit. We are almost out of gas with a small block Chevy van in the mountains. Very limited food, hardly any water left. We got to figure this shit out. So, we press on, because what else are you going to do? And we press on up the mountains and start going over these trails. And I mean, these trails are some of them are vertical, some of them are, they're just goat trails for wagons, going around these cliffs with 400, 500 foot drops off the one side and a cliff on the other side. And we're coming through all these like carved tunnels, and it was just wild. The views up there are just phenomenal. I mean, just like snow-capped mountains and aspen trees as far as the eye can see, you know? And then once you get above tree line, it's just mountain all around you, and just like down. Just like everything is down there somewhere, way over there. We're coming up through the mountain. We're coming up over like, man, I wish I could remember all the names. Cheyenne's the one outside of Colorado Springs, so it wasn't that one. But anyway, we're coming up over these ridges and coming down these 4x4 trails, and we get to, man, I want to say it was, I know we ended up in like Cripple Creek, Silver City, Leadville, stuff like that, but I can't remember what order it was. But I know we pulled into Silver City because I found this old mining company, or Cripple Creek, because I found this old mining company museum thing. That was the Moffett Mining Company, which that's pretty cool. You can look that up. And we hung out, and it's like the whole town, you know, I expected like cowboy-esque tourist town or something. Like, bullshit. It's like a little tiny Vegas in the mountains. It was like a little Las Vegas up there. Just nothing but gambling machines. Every building was just gambling. I was like, damn, that's crazy. But we hung out there for a little while, got fed, and, you know, we begged for leftovers from people and bussed, and made a little bit of cash, got some gas. And we're like, all right, let's keep going then. So we start going up more mountains and getting more remote, and it was somewhere between Leadville and probably Steamboat. I mean, I don't really remember anything else in between them. So it had to have been somewhere in there. We started running out of gas again, running out of food. And like, mind you, we've been in these mountains for like 2 weeks now. Like, we've been up here moving, just like camping, moving, camping. That's it. Like hanging out at lakes and shit like that up in the mountains. And now we're like towards the end of the journey, but it's like the longest stretch. So we start finding all these like summer homes that are up, like these old cabins and stuff that are up in these mountains. And they're super nice, and there's just nobody there. Like, we ran out of gas, and there's just like nobody. We walked and like went to 4 or 5 of these little places, and nobody was at any of them. I was like, man, fuck this. And allegedly, we popped open the garage on one, and it was full of like snowmobiles and gas cans and stuff. But all the gas cans were full, so we just loaded up all the gas cans and then locked everything back up. Then went to the next one and got into it, and it had a bunch of food in totes. So we loaded up all the food, left all the totes, and shut everything and locked everything. We aren't assholes. But then we went up the road a little bit and went to another one, and we grabbed like an axe and a couple cast irons and this and that. Did nothing crazy. We locked everything back up, put it back the way it was before we left, and we just carried on into the mountains, and we went up and up and up. And I mean, we went up over like the Continental Divide, which is like 12,000 feet, which was cool because it was like hot snow, hot. Like, the temperature fluctuation was crazy. And we finally ended up in Steamboat after like another week of driving and just living off of the food supplies that we had scavenged and the gas. Like, it was some legit post-apocalypse, like scavenge for food and fuel kind of stuff. And that was super fun. And then after that, we went through Utah for the first time, and that was also absolutely gorgeous. I love Utah just for the scenery. Everything else sucked. But we went into Salt Lake City to try to find some pot, and we ran into these punk kids, which they were like, you would hope they were like SLC punk kids, but they were really like some TLC punk kids. And they invite us back to their place to crash and all that, and that was cool. We get there, and they're like explaining to us what they are, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to know nothing. Like, no, the girl in the relationship was like, I am a male identifying homosexual. It's like, and let me guess, your boyfriend is also homosexual and only likes men. Yeah. It's like, y'all have regular sex. Yep. So you're telling me you're gay, but you have regular sex. Yep. So that conversation lasted 4 hours. I swear to God. We were all just getting drunker and drunker, and I was understanding it less and less. Because it just didn't make any fucking sense. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We ended up finding some weed and heading out. And I'm like, man, Bonneville salt flats are out here somewhere. And we're driving, and it's just like nothing, and everything goes white. Like all the nothing turns white. And I'm like, oh shit, this is the salt flats. And like we're driving just like dead straight on the interstate, and there's like one rest area in the middle of it. And we kept going, and we went down to like where they do the Bonneville salt flat races and all that. And I was like, man, can I please, for the love of God, drive out there? And they're like, absolutely not. Please. Absolutely not. It's like, fuck. Okay. So I was like, fuck. I drive all the way back up the interstate, all the way back to that rest area I was talking about. And I get there, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. And I unhooked the trailer and put it in a parking spot, because I had a little truck bed trailer I pulled behind the van with all our gear. And it was like me and like 3 or 4 other people in the van, and I hit the salt flats and just put it on the floor. Nuts on the dash. I mean, we were rolling. I had a little GPS for my speedometer because I never had a real speedometer in there. And I mean, that thing was 100, 105, 120, 115. And it was like, I mean, I was just staying in it. That van is just going, I mean, we were shaking like we were getting shook up in a mixer. I mean, it was crazy, and it just kept climbing. I just kept my foot on the floor. 130, 135, 135, it just enough. I mean, my valves were just enough valve float to raise the Arizona. And yeah, I mean, we were rolling, and my GPS is just blinking. 135, 135, 136, 135, and we're just like, ah! Anyway, it starts smoking really bad. I'm like, oh shit! So I let out of it, drive back to the rest area, and well, we stopped in the middle. Like, we drove, and then we stopped and let the van cool off a little bit. We all hung out, and, like, pissed in the salt, watched it disappear, and chewed on salt. Not the pissy salt. Well, might have, but who knows. Anyway. But, you know, after that, we drove back to the rest area, hooked up the trailer, and took off. And the motor was hurting bad. So we turned around and started heading back towards Colorado. And we get back to the springs, and, you know, I go looking for a new motor and find one in a junkyard. We go spange that up for $300 and bought it. And we went and changed it in a Walmart parking lot with like 2x4s and ratchet straps. We just like strapped the motor to a couple 2x4s and then fucking deadlifted it up out of the hole, and then deadlifted the one back in. Like, it was a whole thing. Walmart loved it. Left them a big old cute spot, little kissy mark on the pavement there in oil. And then we took off again to go back up into the mountains, up towards like Boulder. But the transmission started going out immediately. And we climbed up a mountain and we set up camp, and the transmission was like slipping the whole way up. And we parked and set up camp and hung out. And like 4 days go by. We're like, all right, we need to go back into town. We're out of supplies. Like, let's roll. Get in the van. Transmission won't do anything. I mean, will not do anything. So we unhook the trailer and push the van down into the road and then hook the trailer back to it. And we're at the top of this mountain road. And I shit you not, we coasted from the top of that mountain road like 20 something miles all the way to the Walmart in Ashland. I mean, it was a Loveland. Sorry, not Ashland, Loveland. Coasted all the way from the mountaintop to Loveland. Never had to use the gas pedal because it wouldn't fucking do anything anyway, but we had it on, so I had brakes and power steering. But yeah, we coasted all the way back down there, and I got on Craigslist, found a transmission. Dude brought it up to the Walmart and dropped it off. Boop, boop. Swapped them out. On the road we went. I think we went towards, I think we went to like Montana again after that, after we swapped the transmission out. No, we went back to Missouri, hung out at Chris and Melissa's for a little bit, and then we went back out west towards Montana, up through Nebraska. We went like a little more north and over, because Kansas got wise to me. It got to a point to where I couldn't even travel through Kansas, because every gas station I'd pull up and they'd be like, we know you, get the fuck out of here. And yeah, we just headed back out west, going back out west and doing that whole loop again, which is literally just all we did. You know, when I talk about traveling all the time, you know, I mean, that's what it was. I was just like driving and moving around all the time. We would just go back and forth, up and down and diagonal, and just, I mean, all the back roads, all the main roads. It was just like, it got so monotonous after just, I did it for 7 years, traveled for 7 years, all the ways you could travel, and it just gets so boring. You run out of places to go. Like, that was my issue. We got to a point in travel where we were opening the atlas and just flicking point, and wherever it landed, that's where we went. And we did that for an entire year, like just pointing to the atlas, like, oh, I'm tired of this place, whoop, bah, that's where we're going. And we would just whip out the atlas and point, and like, that's where we go. And you know, even that got boring as hell. That got boring because everywhere we went sucked. It's like the cops were either shitty, or, you know, you couldn't be homeless there, or you couldn't have dogs there. You know, at this point in my life, I had 3 dogs. I had Boots, Amos, and Roscoe, excuse me. And you know, there was just like not a whole lot you could do. You go to the beach. We went and spent like 2 months at Virginia Beach, but you couldn't go to the beach during the day with dogs, and you couldn't like couldn't do anything at the beach with dogs. Like, you couldn't walk around town with your dogs. You couldn't do shit. It was hot as fuck out, and it was just like me and the dogs sitting in the van while the girl I had at the time was off hanging out with people, and it was just a shitty situation altogether. But I mean, I had fun. Tried acid for the first time. That was cool. You know, we can get into that in a different story, but because I'll end up doing like a whole episode specifically on psychedelic things that had happened on psychedelics, you know. And I'll get a couple of my buddies in on that one, but yeah. And then, you know, we did that whole traveling thing a little longer. Went from the West Coast. We were like, well, to hell with it, we'll go out to Maine. And, you know, that whole situation wasn't too bad. We got to Maine in no time. I mean, we went from the West Coast to Maine in like 2 weeks, which is crazy good timing for traveling with no money, you know. And we spent like a month in Maine on this girl's property, and which ended up being my worst nightmare. That at that place, Amos and Roscoe, my other 2 dogs, killed Boots' dog while we were there. There was just like a pit bull in heat, and they all got into a fight, and Amos and Roscoe killed Boots. Like, it's just how it was. And, you know, that's a whole story, but I don't like talking about that. Maybe we'll end up talking about it eventually, but not right now. Yeah, we left Maine after a month or so and went south. And whilst we were in Maine going south, we were driving down the interstate, and there was just like traffic swerving off the road, and like I was like, whoa, what is that? There was like something laying in the road, and it was a bicycle. I was like, oh shit. Slammed on the brakes and pulled over, and my buddies jumped out, grabbed it, threw it in the van, and we took off and kept going. And then we took that bike and we went and took it to a bike shop, and they were like, oh yeah, that's a Colnago C60. These are custom made bikes. Turns out it was like a $10,000 road racing bike, like a touring bike with like hydraulic brakes and electric shifters and carbon fiber. The whole thing was carbon fiber, and it had like carbon fiber rims and frame and all that. I'm like, oh, that's our ticket right there. And so I posted it on Craigslist when we got to Virginia, when we got back to Virginia, and some dude was like, oh, I'll buy that, I'll give you $1,000 for it. I've never seen $1,000 in my life. Hell yeah. So we go to wait for him at this Hardee's, and meanwhile, while we're at this Hardee's, we meet these kids that are hanging out inside, and they're like, probably 16. We're talking to them, and they got a guitar case, and they're like, dude, you want to check this out? It's like, what's that? And they're like, I got a gun. Like, oh, really? I like guns. So they open it up, and it's a model 1897 Winchester pump, made in 1900. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Too bad it's an old piece of junk. I'll trade you this Mossberg 3030 I've got for it. Which I had this old Mossberg that I just beat to death. I'm like, oh, is that a rifle? I was like, yeah. I was like, I could use a shotgun. Y'all can take this rifle and get twice your money. They're like, okay. And we swapped, and now I've got a $1,500 shotgun, and they've got a $300 rifle. Don't feel bad about it. But anyway, the guy's getting ready to show up. It's like 30 minutes till the guy gets there, right? I go to the van to get the bike out, and my dog has chewed through the frame on the rear end of that bicycle because it was carbon fiber. He has chewed a hole in it. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I can't lose this money. So I grabbed a tube of black silicone. The whole bike was black because it was carbon. And I filled that hole with silicone and smoothed it out. And I used a lighter to heat up one of the stickers, and I peeled the sticker off, and I went down and very carefully laid that sticker to where it fit just right over that hole, over that silicone. And I mean, you could not tell. You could not tell. He shows up, loads the bike up, pays us, takes off. All right. That was the end of that. Now I've got $1,000. So I take that $1,000, and I get online immediately. Land $4,000. Of course there was like 5 acres in Colorado, but it's like the worst 5 acres in Colorado for $1,000 because it's in like the valleys where it's like -40 in the winter and 120 in the summer. So it's like, nope. And I'm looking and looking, and finally I find some land that's worth the shit in Arkansas, like $800 for trees. Sold. So I buy this land off of prepaid cards in a Home Depot parking lot somewhere in somewhere in like West Arkansas. We were hanging out, and I'm like, shit. All right, well, now I own land. What's the next step? Now I'm gonna go start, my own little hippie hill type thing, and yeah. So we drive over to where the land's at in Hardy. It's just nothing there. It's just trees and just an old neighborhood that got forgotten about. And yeah, that's when I started living there. I just like pulled the van in and made a driveway, and then started gathering up scraps of lumber here and there and working off what I could to get lumber from this guy that had a sawmill or that guy had a sawmill. And, you know, eventually I built myself a nice little 10 by 15 cabin. And, you know, over time, me and everybody added on to it because I was just living out there. I didn't have shit else to do, so I got all this sawmill lumber. So I just kept building and building and building. I built myself like a little town out there. It was, you know, it wasn't very big. You know, my lot was only 100 by 100, but I had it filled up, you know. And I had, you know, we had an RV, and then I had a kitchen off the front of it that we built like an old saloon style. And then it had, you know, the moon tower, which was like a little tree house thing. It was just like a little tower up on the top of a tree stump, about 12 foot high, that we used to go lay up there and watch the stars. And then we had town hall, which was like just a little building with a table, and we played board games and shit in there. And we had the bunkhouse with 4 bunk beds in it, and then we had my house that had my bed and the TV and everything in there. And we ran it off a generator, no water, had an outhouse. And I lived like that for a couple years, 2-3 years, I think, if I can remember right, before, you know, I started figuring life out. And yeah, I'm gonna leave off right there with you know, getting the farm started in Hardy. I mean, you know, I've skipped a lot of stories telling this. You know, I'm just giving you a general roadmap of what I've done right now. You know, the stories will come as they come, but, you know, traveling for 7 years, you collect so many stories that you can't even remember them all at the same time. Like, you can't just like do this one and that one and this one and that one without all of them having you know, when you tell the story, they all have happened in the same year all of a sudden instead of over 7 years, you know. Like, shit, I forgot to even talk about New Orleans before I came to Arkansas. I went to Maine, bought the land, went to New Orleans. Oh man, see, it's just like that. Like, little things, I forget where they fit in the timelines. And anyway, yeah, I'm gonna leave it off right there, and, you know, we'll talk about everything else as it comes. You know, in the next episode, I'll tell you about the farm and how I met Cody and Hexter and how they helped me, you know, stay alive, essentially. You know, I'll tell you how I met Brenda. We'll get there, you know, one episode at a time.